Oh, Suki Suki Now. I know my dogs are watching, and if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are watching and you ain't my dog yet, you will be, because I'm Swede and I'm here to help you get busy living. What's that? That's one epic adventure every month for 55 months in a row. That's the streak that we're trying to beat. But this week we're going to talk about taking life by the bull, by the yes. But first, since nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing, allow me to introduce my co-hostess right there.
Hi, I've been here the whole time.
Wait. You can't take my favorite part away from me, girl.
You're the one that didn't take me off the screen.
Oh, damn it, man.
All right. I just want to say hello to the people who are coming in the door at the beginning of this podcast and everybody who shows up every week. It's just an amazing feeling, this building of this community and this lifestyle that we're trying to spread, which is really about chasing everything you want in life and making the most out of everything you can do in your own life. So we're all happy that you're here. And please say hello in the comments, because otherwise we don't know who's here. And we really like to know. And we really want to chat with you about today's topic. But before we get to that, let's catch up with our boy Swede here, our dog.
Ever called you my dog? Honest, since you mentioned that, I've been, I've never been the one that's tried to cross my culture. I wasn't wearing my overalls backwards when Crisscross was telling us to jump. Although I grew up in the inner city where it was multicultural and lots of diversity. I mean, there was many non-English speaking white people on 16th and Cherry as there was English speaking white people on 16th and Cherry. But with that said, as much as I've never been one to go around calling people by what other people call people, I do call people dog, which, I don't know if that has something to do with Snoop Dogg or if I just thought it was cool, because I do think that man's best friends are dogs. And all my best friends are my dogs. Can I get a hell yeah?
I get it. Speaking of your best dogs.
My dog, Kiro D, is in the house. Key Rod, that's my man. I see Elevated Underground is in the house. I want to say what up to Leslie, a.k.a. I met him as Bleak. That's my dog. Hey, Bleak, thanks for putting that jam down for us, y'all. Every week, we start to show off with the same jam. And the point is that nothing comes easy. We work for it all. And Marcus is the man behind that jam. I'm sure we'll see Kevin Christopher in the house at one point or another today. Hey, Key-Rod, thanks for showing up, brother. Love you. Roms. Rames ho high. I wonder. Lori's in the house.
Every time people say hello with some sort of mysterious name, it's kind of like when you're at those Christmas parties where you get to pick a gift from under the tree. You don't know what's in it and you're shaking it and you're trying to figure out what's in it. That's what it feels like to me every time.
Well, speaking of shaking, there's some cool stuff shaking with Schaefer, and I've got some stuff to share with you guys later on in the show. Going to catch up with my man, Lori. Thanks for showing up. Love to see you. Look, Kiro, Lori, you guys are in Erie, but Bleak, that my man, Bleak's coming at you from Destin, Florida. Another Erieite's in the house. Don't give up the ship. No, but Bleak, I wonder the weather's like there. Bleak moved down there from Kentucky. I've actually been back to his neighborhood. Me and Kevin Christopher Price took a ride up there one time. Drove up to Kentucky to visit his family, and I got to see where him and Bleak, hung out back in the day. But Bleak's now in Destin, and I've been missing Destin. I didn't get to go to Destin for 420 like I wanted to go to Destin. Mm-hmm. But this time, instead of going to Destin, we're bringing Destin to the show. How about that, D-Rex?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've only been to Destin once, but it made a huge impression on me. So I'm really excited for our guest today, who is from Destin. And you know what? I'd like to just back up for a second. And this Rames Holt is coming at us from Austria. I think this wins some sort of award. I think we need some sort of a graphic to go along with this, but we don't have one. It says English is difficult.
Well, welcome from Austria. I think we do have
Yes,
one. I
that's
got one
amazing.
day. So for any time that we have people joining us from international, because I know that there are ties all around the world, and thanks to global and international marketing these days. But anytime we have a newcomer, we should remind them that no matter where you're from, don't go out without a fight.
Yeah, don't give up the ship. That's for sure.
But there's different angles of looking at that. Like, don't give up the ship, but then that's kind of like if you die, were you stubborn? Like we do a lot of mindset talk here on this show, and we try to keep it real with you guys at all times. But sometimes there are two sides to a coin, and that doesn't mean that coin ain't worth it. Like just because we say don't give up the ship, it doesn't mean that we're saying die for the cause if it's a stupid cause. You know what I mean? Like you got because we're going to talk about today about what it takes sometimes to knock you off course. Because sometimes we're cruising and we don't realize that we're cruising in the wrong direction. So give up the ship if it's going in the wrong place.
Yeah, definitely. I think the don't give up the ship is more like don't stop trying is really what it is. Don't stop trying if that's what you want. And, our guest today has tried many things. He's a fascinating individual. And why don't we just go ahead and introduce him?
Please do.
Today's guest,
ladies and gentlemen,
Jeremy
please
Bullock.
Help us welcome to the show, Jeremy Bullock coming live from Destin. Jeremy's in the house. Up? Hell yeah.
My dog. Fascinating individual. I like that. That's how you get brought in right there.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know Jeremy before this past week when I was thrown onto the phone with him and uncovered the stories that he's been writing for his own life for the past 6, 7, actually your whole life, I think is very interesting. So if we just kind of take it back to you're from Destin, which is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
No doubt about it.
So I'm going to bring up these pictures that you showed me. That's what it looks like, guys. If you haven't
pretty
been.
Pink and baby, look at that. The sky is pink. The sand is reflecting the sky, the blue part. I mean, this is like elegance here. I love it.
I mean, just imagine, like, you are born into paradise. That is what life to be like. And everybody thinks that would be the ideal way to be, and the place to be, and the way to grow up. And I'm sure, it's not a bad way to grow up. But you were saying to me, the first thing you said was, yes, beautiful and toxic. And I would like you to explain why you said that, because
toxic. That sounds juicy.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of fun and it's a great place and there's lots you can get into, but kind of growing up here, everybody here is on vacation. You go through school and, you're down at the beach hanging out and stuff for everybody's spring breaks, not just your own. You're down there 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, and then, spring, summertime comes and you're just working a little bit, just enough so you can go out and hang out and enjoy, the tourist life, and that happens every year like clockwork. And throughout my life, it got bigger and bigger and bigger around here because this place has exploded in the past, 30 years or so.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot you can get into. You can make good money in the service industry and bartending, waitressing, and things like that. With with not much training and make a pretty good living. Or get yourself into a lot of trouble with that money. Either one you want to do.
And feel happy about it the whole time. I spent 15 years there.
Well, yeah, but there's so many people in that boat. So many people come here. At one point when I was managing a bar, we had like 9 people from Ohio working for us. Like, there's nobody likes Ohio. Does everybody like come here one time was like, I'm not going back to Ohio at all. I don't know. I mean, it was crazy, but yeah, like, and there's so few of us that are from still here that are from here. Most everybody, took off and everybody else moved in. So
I was one of those.
So that's
man. What's
interesting.
funny?
Yeah.
We grew up.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's
Ohio.
so much in common right here. So Swede took off from Destin. We're kind of from Ohio. I'm basically 15 minutes away. And we went scattered as well. All three of us have worked in bar situations. So we know the life, we know. I was a barmaid when I was in Pittsburgh for a few years, and you don't get home till sometimes 4 a.m. It's a lifestyle, right?
That's what time we closed.
Yeah,
that's 4 a.m. So we had.
So you didn't get home till 6 a.m.
Yeah, yeah. That's if we didn't go drinking ourselves. That's if we just went home.
Yeah, I worked at a couple clubs in Destin, and I've seen my share of 4 a.m. closing times, and by the time you're walking out of work, sometimes the sun's already up, and it doesn't. You're wound up from work. You just got done moving as fast as you can for 6 hours straight, sometimes 10 hours straight, sometimes 18 hours straight if you worked a day shift and you pulled an all-nighter. And, you think it after 18 hours of working straight, you'd be like exhausted and just ready to go hit the hay. But I've seen my share of 6 a.m.s and all my coworkers are ready to go out, and I've already got my second win. I'm like, all right, then, and then noon comes around. You're like, man, I got to be back to work soon.
Yeah. But there's all that stuff to do, or jump on a boat, go to Crab Island after you've been out drinking all night. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
I can imagine, because do people know? I don't know if everybody here knows what Crab Island is. And I didn't know until I went to Destin. But it's just this sandbar that's out in this clear blue water, and everybody just basically goes out there and parties. And it's gorgeous. And you know what? There was a place I worked in Pittsburgh where I worked in the coffee shop portion, but there was a bar upstairs. And the bar people, they worked at night, and the coffee shop closed, I don't know, 9, 10. So I was always going home at a normal hour when I worked in the coffee shop portion. But when I came back in the morning to open the coffee shop, the bar people were still hanging out. And it kind of interferes with normal life working in a bar. The money might be good. The money might be good and fast, but it really is a whole different lifestyle. And I know that you were telling me that you had gotten into working at the bar at a certain point, but I would really like to back up. And you're a huge guy. You can't see this on this podcast. How tall are you?
Huge and fascinating. I'm almost 6'4". I'm about 340 pounds, about 6'4", 340.
Holy shnikes.
And you had a football scholarship, which I could totally see. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us a bit about that, how you went from high school to a football scholarship in college?
Well, growing up around here, there's there was really one place for a big white boy one sport for a big white boy to play, and one position for a big white boy to play, and that was to play offensive line in football. And that's what I always was. That's what I was bred to be, and I played all the way through middle school, high school, ended up doing really well in high school, and earned it was mostly a football scholarship. Part of it was academic, to play at Tusculum College up in East Tennessee. That was in 1998 that I got that. So took off from here and left home, for the first time, and went to Tusculum College up in East Tennessee. It's beautiful up there. It's up in the mountains near Gatlinburg, kind of, near Knoxville. So it's up in the mountains. It's pretty.
That's very different from the beach life.
Oh, it was a culture shock. Absolute culture shock. Yeah, I didn't have any clothes. The only warm clothes I had were camel. They thought I was the biggest up there because the only jacket I had was deer hunting clothes. I didn't have any. Yeah, that was a culture shock for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's actually good for people to go away for college and get a taste of something different, learn how to care for themselves. But you were telling me that lifestyle of being a football player and coming from a party town, it kind of caught up with you. Just tell us a little bit about that direction.
Yeah, I was real motivated. I was doing really good, both in the classroom and on the field. And I had earned a backup position. So as a freshman, I had earned a backup position, which was pretty good, in that instance. But I ended up getting hurt. We had what was called the orange and black game. It's like a media game where they break the team up by 2 teams and then we scrimmaged, right? So I took off to the second level and went to a linebacker, and the linebacker absolutely just ear-holed me, and I went flying and landed on my wrist or landed on my hand and messed up my wrist pretty bad. So I had to have surgery. So I was done. I got a medical red shirt for that season. And then, it wasn't too long after that I realized that, dollar beers and a couple of pain pills, and I could pretty well enjoy the evening relatively inexpensively. So I started messing around with that a little bit too much and ignoring both my studies and like my rehabilitation. I was like, I had to be there every morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning, but I was kind of like just going through the motions. I had to be in the training room every day that I was hurt. I had to be there no matter what, that kind of thing. But I was just kind of over it, at that point. And I just kind of, it's funny. I've always been that way. Once I get to that point with something, I'll just kind of explode it, just completely just blow it out of the water and just be done and say, 2 tears in a bucket. I'm out, and I packed up all my stuff and I came home. I called one of my old bosses to make sure I had a job before I came home at a bar. He's like, hey, absolutely. So I had a shift scheduled before I came home and said, hey, Mom, I'm gonna be crashing here for a little while. Yeah, that's how.
What did your mom think about that?
She was upset. But I mean, what was she going to do at that point? I had pretty well already done it. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't communicate with her a whole lot about it or anything. I wasn't real proud of any of it. So it's kind of like, let me just burn all that down and run away from it. It's kind of how it was, more or less.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
But that's because you knew that you could make money in Destin.
Oh yeah. I wasn't worried about that at all. That was never a concern, and I wasn't really worried about money anyway. My family my dad did pretty well, and my mom was pretty good. I never really worried about money to start with. That was not more my motivation was to start a life or start to do something that's productive because I was still motivated and driven. I just was not really feeling school, and I had such a problem with college algebra. I took it 3 times and never got better than a C. I finally got a C on it. I took it 2 different schools. Never once had it where my teacher was English was their first language, which is kind of tough when you're talking about algebra. Yeah, man, college is weird. Most of the math teachers are from India or China because they're the smartest people. So, yeah,
should have went to OW, bro.
Yeah, it's like when you call a customer service for just about anything, and they know enough English to do their job, but if you deviate at all, then they have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Imagine that with algebra.
Oh wow,
that's what I ran into 3 times actually, but I mean, what it was, and I came home and I started rocking in the bar business, man, and. By the time I was 20 years old, I was already running. I was a general manager of a bar, of a nightclub. It was Howl at the Moon, a piano bar on Oakland's Island. Wow. They trusted me to do that. And I'm running the business. I had 14 waitresses and 4 piano players, and we're doing tens of thousands of dollars a night in revenue and stuff like that real quick. So I was making dumb money at 20 years old.
I used to love going there, man.
Yeah, it was a cool place. Very cool place. So that's what that was my motivation. It was just, hey, I'm just gonna make money. I ain't worried about college. I got people with degrees working for me because they can't get a job making money. So they're if they want to live around here, I mean, there's not a whole lot of industry around here besides tourism.
There's not. Man, I was there for 15 years. The military's there. If you're not fishing and you're not doing something that has to do with sunbathing, what are you doing there?
Exactly. For sure.
So both of you at some point left your bar business. You know, I think this is kind of interesting. So let's go to Swede first. Why you were running a successful wine bar, right? When you left?
Well, the wine bar was really the only time where that was my sole source of income. Even though the money there in the service industry was great, I was doing other things. But at one point, I was working with a fundraising company, and I had summers off because schools were my main customers, and they didn't have to work, so I didn't have to work, and I still made my dough. So I had the summers off, so I got a job bartending on a boat as my first job in the service industry, as my sole source of income. Actually, I did. That's not true, because I relied solely on waiting tables when I first got out of the Air Force for like a couple months. I think it was like 2 months before I saved up enough money and bought a car, and then I went and got another job. But my career was mostly, as a second job, was working in restaurants. So when I did finally start working at La Botana, I actually helped them open the place, and I wasn't supposed to be working there as an employee. I was just helping them open it, and that type of thing. And while I was there, they discovered that there was some shiesty business going on, and they needed somebody. And I was doing consulting for a construction company at the time, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Like they were like going to pay us what I can make in that other place, plus give me an opportunity to make tips too. And I was like, okay. And it was a lot of work, because I was wearing a lot of hats. I was a GM. I was doing all the marketing and managing, and actually tending the bar, and sometimes waiting tables and all that kind of stuff. So it was never a one-man show. I had a lot of really good help. Best boss I ever worked for. But I remember telling people during that time that at that point was the first time I'd ever been the lead dog in a place. And I never aspired to move up the ladder in the restaurant industry, because it was always like a second fiddle for me. So when I did kind of stumble into it, I was like, man, I remember telling people, I love this job. I love the people I work for, but this is not me forever, man. I want to do more than. I didn't even like wine. I was a wine bar. I was a general manager of a wine bar. And I mean, I learned to love wine. I love wine now. But at that time, I knew wine because it was part of working in other bars, but I didn't love it, And so that was my last stint in it. But man, I didn't get out because I stumbled. But although I did stumble plenty, because Jeremy's right, man. When you're getting off work, that late at night, and everybody else is doing, staying up all night, and doing the Crab Island thing the next day, or doing the beach the next day, or, it's really hard to go home and go to sleep. and then even if you're working in the places, a couple of different stints I had where I was getting off work at a decent hour, 10, 12 o'clock at night, even then, that's even is dangerous, because because when you're getting off at 4, you're actually, most of the bars are closed. So you're tempted to go home, but when you're getting off work at 10 or 12, you're not. You've been waiting on those people all night. Now you're going to go out and hang out with them, so it's a very fast lifestyle. I remember, talking to Lyric about this, about, how it's good money, and it's a good learning experience to get to know how different people are, and learning not to take people personally. I think I got from the restaurant and bar industry, because once you've waited on 10,000 people in a year, it seems like, you stop taking it personally. You start realizing there's a lot of similarities, and a lot of people get angry about the same things. And, maybe they should get angry. Maybe you should adjust, or, realize that, a lot of people enjoy things that the others don't. And you just start to you get kind of you stop taking people so personal, I guess, from waiting on them. So it was a great life experience. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite, positions I've ever had as far as bartending was. But I knew that life was dangerous, so I was trying to avoid it.
Okay, because I think, Jeremy, you were saying the same thing, as after a while working in bars, even though you were the top guy, it's kind of the same thing, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And my hat's off to people that, I got plenty of buddies that have kind of been it the whole time, and chugged through and done really well for themselves,
Same here.
And they can handle it, you know, that's their life and that's cool, you know. Getting off at 5 o'clock.
At what point, you know, you're making good money, you're kind of in charge of people, you're living in Destin, but at what point, and what makes you think this? Do you stop and go, I'm kind of done with this, I want to move on, and why, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, like most of it has to do with epic issues. Like I got a DUI and got out of the bar business the first time. That's like I was like, okay, I'm done with this. Like I need to change my life. So I got out of the bar business and got into the car business. And then the second time, I mean, like that, it's happened over and over again. Yeah.
You don't find anything kind of funny about that? You got a
car
DUI.
And bar. And
like,
got in the car business.
Well, those do rhyme. But I'm saying that, you know, you got a DUI, so you got out of the bar and into the car again. But
when I started when I started in the car business, I had a suspended license. I wasn't even allowed to I wasn't supposed to be driving the cars or anything, but the manager was really cool and he gave me an opportunity. Nowadays that can't happen. Like insurance companies won't let it happen. But we were like a smaller dealership at the time. So they let me kind of start in the bar business or the car business with a suspended license from getting this DUI that I got.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And you know what? What's that like? Because I think that's a scary thing when you get a DUI. Like, what's that like?
So, like back then, this was in 2004, 2005, something like that, and like it cost me about $5,000, and I didn't fight it. I didn't get a lawyer, anything. Just it cost me a lot of pain and anguish, and I had to, you know, like I had no license for a year. My insurance was crazy expensive for a little while afterwards, but that was then. Like now, like immediately you got like it's over $10,000 from ding to dong to finish up. Like you got you gotta get one of those blow things where you gotta blow into it for your car to start on the very first DUI. Like it's not like on habitual offenders used to have those. Now it's like the very first one. But yeah, I mean, I was blessed. I mean, I got caught. I finally got caught is all that happened. And I, you know, with that, I've done so many things.
I like how you say that you got blessed and you got caught. And so just so those of you that are watching for the first time and welcome to the show, Bull, the 3 crucial questions, D-Rex never knows what the hell those are going to be about or what that's about.
Yeah. So I can't talk about those.
She comes at me with what her impression of the guest was, and then with her impression of the guest, I come up with these 3 roundabout ways of getting about it. And so that's the rude awakening that I had, anticipated coming out in the story, because sometimes we are on cruise control. You know, sometimes we're just headed in the direction. If you don't touch the wheel of a car, it will go straight until it hits a bump, right? And if things are so easy in life for you, or not you personally, bro, obviously, but if things get easy in life for anyone, a lot of times we can just be content, or we can realize that, or we don't even realize that we're really not busy living. We're just in cruise control. And that's like your hand's not even on the steering wheel because it's so easy, you know? And sometimes it takes hitting a bump to knock you off of your course. And then you have to grab the wheel or grab the bull by the horns, you know, and then you got to grab the wheel. And then when you're grabbing the wheel, you have to stabilize yourself, right? And when you're stabilizing yourself, you're paying attention, right? And a lot of times that's what it takes. It takes a little bit, not a little bit. It takes getting knocked off course, you know. And whether it's minor things in life, or it's a major thing in your life, or if it's a major thing in the scope of the whole world, it takes a lot of times a major crisis for major change to happen.
Absolutely.
You know, and that type of thing. Like you said, I was blessed. I think that you may not even have expected me to interject and catch that, but you truly feel that in your heart that it was a blessing to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Everything, every step that I've made, right, wrong, left, right, up, down, has put me exactly where I am right now, which is sitting on this podcast talking to you guys about, you know, my recovery. And that's how I feel. That's honestly how I feel about it. You know, a lot of this, the stuff about my life, I resented a lot of this stuff. The stuff I already talked to you about, as far as me blowing opportunities and stuff like that. I didn't talk to people about that kind of stuff before. I just didn't. I internalized it and all that kind of stuff. But one of the I've had several rude awakenings, several like that, and it's always. I told somebody, like, if I went back to like all the epically horrible things that happened in my life, I'm talking about whether I end up in jail or the cops were there or girlfriends breaking up with me or whatever it was, one common denominator was alcohol, man. Every time.
Before we get
every time.
Because we can that's a good place to pick up as an alcohol, because I know a lot of people can relate. But I just want to say what up to some other of our guests have come along.
Sure.
And somebody that you probably have a pretty good idea who is.
What up, TJ?
And smiles in the house saying, "Oh, hell what up, yeah." And I think you guys might recall my man Scooty Wells and with the role that he's played in my life. And the wonderful Mrs. Wells is in the house. Say what up to my man Titan and his new younger sister Journey. Scooty Wells and Louise recently added a member to the legendary family. And look, Tasha has a good comment here. I like that mindset. I've only made it as far as I have now by finding blessings in each storm. That's such a good point. When I woke up staring at the ceiling, and I woke up in a good mood. I woke up and I was looking. I didn't realize I couldn't move my body, and I was just like, I felt fine. They must have put some good drugs in me when I first got to the hospital, because I felt fine. And then I didn't realize I couldn't move because I was just like literally only awake for 3 to 5 seconds of just kind of like realizing I was awake. And then somebody looks at me and then a head pops in like over top of me, like from the side view. And she's like, hello, can you hear me? So I come to find out that I can't move. She's like, can you hear me? I'm like, yeah, I can hear you. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I think I feel fine. And I'm like, oh, wait, I can't move, And then she started touching me. Can you feel this? I'm like, no. And the thing is, I didn't panic at any point. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. And Tasha makes a good point that you got to have faith that the storm will end. I've always had this unpenetrable like shield up, thinking that this too shall pass. And I think that that's enabled me to weather storms all throughout my life. And I've had rude awakenings, and since then, I really do believe that every bit of progress I've been able to make wasn't possible without the help of others. And if you believe that you've done good unto others and that you get what you deserve, then you deserve to have others do good unto you. And that faith in people and that faith in the storm will end and this too shall pass is what has enabled me to like stay smiling and really not ever. I mean, I have bad days. I have terrible days. I have days where I don't speak or see nobody or I don't want to, but I never really feel like the end is near or like this ain't worth it. You know what I mean? All these rude awakenings, you just got to believe, I say that over and over, but there's a lot of people in my life that have had to overcome alcohol, and hell, I'm one of them. Obviously that probably wouldn't have happened. I probably wouldn't be chasing that monkey if I hadn't had a little sauce in me. You know what I mean? So how do you feel like that has, been such a major impact for you to put down the sauce, if you say?
Well, it's been everything, man. And let me start by saying, man, like your story is absolutely inspirational, and the strength that you can show and talk and walk through it like this, it's like it kind of makes what I went through not so bad, So it's like, what am I be crying about, you little bitch? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I feel about it. But yeah, everything, everything's everything. Everybody's going through different stuff, but alcohol was let me start by saying I started drinking alcoholically probably sometime when I was about 18, 17, somewhere in there. But I was definitely messing around with alcohol by about 14. But it was kind of part of our life. It was part of the livelihood of, the area. Everybody drank, everybody went out partying and drinking, and then all that's just like I said, that's destined for you. And the kids of Destin, and there's plenty of us. There's some of us that haven't made it. There's a lot of guys that I grew up with that didn't weather the storm, if you will, and let it succumb to their demons. But
I have a question for you. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. You go ahead and then throw it back to me because I need to ask you something.
Okay, well, I was going to go back to what the initial question was about how things have changed, and everything has changed. Everything, and it's funny. I had one of the techs in the treatment center I went to. If you can imagine, like Chef from South Park, but about 6'8". All right, this guy, big old black dude. His name was LJ. And he'd stand up at the podium and he'd say, "If you don't change nothing, nothing's going to change." And I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget it for as long as I live. Because it was just such like a truth bomb that I needed to hear at that very moment, But yeah, everything's different now. I mean, I make decisions that are based on, a lot of times reaching out to other people and asking for help, which is something that I never knew how to do before, or if I did, I didn't employ because I just thought I had it all figured out myself. But I mean,
so what taught you that lesson? At what point did you learn to do it, and how?
When I finally quit drinking, which interesting, horrible, funny story. My last night of drinking, it was New Year's Eve. I blacked out. Lights went out sometime around 11 o'clock. I don't know, 12 o'clock. Lights went out, whatever. I wake up the next day, and my girlfriend at the time, we are no longer together. She had dug through an email or something where I was weeks prior was tore up and talking to another girl online through email. Well, she found it and screenshotted it and put it on Facebook and social media for everybody to see. So that's how I woke up New Year's Day. My boss, my family, everybody read every word of this. Okay. And it was disrespectful. It was bad. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But that's like one of those, like, wow. Oh my God, like, are you serious right now? Moments. And I was done, man. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was I can't say that I've never thought about killing myself before. Cause like that moment I was like, wow. I wonder if that's an idea here. And I reached out. I reached out to somebody that I knew was in the recovery community. And I said, "What do I do?" And he said, "Come to a meeting with me. We'll go sit and, and I'll introduce you to some people and we'll just kind of do that thing." And I went to my first AA meeting on New Year's Day, January 2017. And I spent most of the time crying. But there was a lot of love in that room, and I found some solitude and some chill for the first time that whole day. The whole day was a little edgy, if you can imagine. I'm just like that. The weirdest feeling when something like that happens online to you, like the idea that everybody in your whole world, like I'm talking about, I got people on social media from 8 years old to people I just met. It's all pretty organic. It's all actually people I know, but I mean, I know them. Like, it was terrible. Whatever. I mean, that was her thing. If that's how she got over it, cool. Once again, I've been sober ever since. So it's like, okay, well, what a horrible, horrible thing. Like, how can I spin this? How can I flip this and make it something positive? And that's basically what I've done. I found out, of course, in the, you go into the recovery world and there's people that have been sober and there's been people that kind of work the system with the sobriety thing. And one guy came up to me at one of the meetings. He's like, "Man, if you really need it, you go to treatment and your employer has to pay for it." What? You got health insurance? I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, they got to give you the time off. They got to pay for it. It's like mental health. It's part of your health insurance." And I was like, "Well, let me go to HR." So I went to HR the next day, and she said,
"That's helpful."
and I don't know if like that in every state, but you can definitely always check with your HR department, because in the state of Florida with your health insurance, if you walk up now, if you go to work drunk, they can fire you. But if you go to work and you go to HR and you say, I have a problem, I need help, I want to go to treatment, and you have health insurance, then it's taken care of through your health insurance, and they can't do anything
Interesting.
about it. They can't fire
that
you.
Is a wonderful thing.
And you get
great
X amount of
information,
time
Jeremy.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's something, like I said, I would have never known otherwise, but I got into the community and this guy was like, hey man, that's what I'm fixing to do. Cause but most of the people there have been to 10 of them. There's a lot of rebound people in those treatment centers and stuff like that.
What a great nugget. Check this out. So my girl Kelly's been on the show with us at one point, and she's my vegan queen. And she said, just signed in. Sounds like a great episode from what I'm hearing. Being sober is the best. Congratulations. And
no doubt.
She's here to tell you that she's been sober since December 4th, 2018.
Right on. You about a year. I hope you never catch me. I hope you never catch me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
She sent me a text. Her new license plate. She got a new license plate. SBRVGN.
Sober vegan.
I like
Sober vegans and
I like it. Yeah, man. It's the best. It's like, man, I wish I'd have done this sooner. But
I have a question about that. Did anyone ever try to get you to back off on your party lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody in my life.
Really?
Life. Everybody. Huh. But I lost my dad at 16. I was so I kind of like from that point on, I just turned into my dad, or turned into the adult, or the one making the decisions and all that kind of stuff. I was 100 miles an hour. I'd never behaved. I just was. That's why the bar business was perfect for me. I was a duck to water, man. Everybody was just slinging cuss words and making money, and life was fast, and nobody looked down on anybody. And, that was kind of like my world, and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a different world.
But it was that, it was just that public humiliation moment that was really like, it was the tipping point thing for you.
I've never felt a feeling like that ever.
I can't imagine.
I mean, it was painful. Mm-hmm. Wow. But again, that was, the rude awakening. Like, I guess I found the one thing that because I mean, I tried to quit drinking just about every time I drank. I really? Tried to stop. I tried. I can't tell you. And I wasn't like, when there's different kinds of alcoholics, and let me rephrase, like, you can say alcoholic, and it's a pretty broad term. And there's alcoholics that drink every day and it doesn't faze them at all, and they won't have any problems at all, and it's just the way it is, and that's how they're going to be, and that's fantastic. There's alcoholics like me who I wouldn't drink every day, but when I start, I couldn't stop, or I didn't want to stop once I started. One of those two.
You don't have that off switch. Yeah.
No. And one really cool thing that I learned when I was in treatment was about the science of the disease. If you want to call it a disease, some people call it a choice, some people call it what you want. I don't care. Not my business. What anybody calls addiction. In my opinion, which is my opinion, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of the science behind the things, as far as like the craving and the allergy of addiction and the allergy of craving, and like once you start, it kind of puts something going. That's why I can drink one drink and all it does is make me have to have another one, whereas the person that I'm with, they can have one drink and hang on to it all night long, and it's no big deal. There's some people that can go out drinking and it's not. I mean, they just go out drinking. And then there's me who will burn everything they got going on, the whole world down, and spend all their money and not be able to find their truck the next day, and upset people in their life that love them just because they went out to have a couple of beers with a couple of buddies. I mean, I've seen myself do it. True. It's just the way it is.
Man, I got to give you some credit, bro. It takes balls to come on, onto a venue like this where you have no idea who you're going to be speaking in front of. And something like this could be ever present online, and you never know. And you're just kind of laying it out there, man. I appreciate that, because, there's people that need to hear it. I'm not going to tell you that I'm not one of them. I don't feel like I need to drink every day, and I do have the ability to stop drinking once I start. But I'm much older than I was 10 years ago, and I can't say that I always had that,
Sure.
So I'm better control of it now. I've quit and been able to sustain it for several weekends at a time, long enough for me to be like, really it didn't make an impact in my life quitting. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that alcohol has been a weight on my life. There's been plenty because I know how motivated I am when I'm sober to get shit done, and how not motivated I am when I'm hungover, or how I don't get anything done when I'm drinking. Like to me, drinks means no. I don't mix business with pleasure. I've never, I've had so many people tell me, bro, you need to learn how to play golf. You grew up in like there in the Panhandle of Florida, not grew up, but in the Panhandle of Florida, the square mileage of golf course per square mileage of residential area is like highest on earth or somewhere up there. It's like crazy.
There's a lot. Yeah.
I spent 15 years there drinking, but not playing golf because I don't mix business with pleasure. I've had so many people say you'd be so much better at your business. You'd be more successful if you met your clients on the golf course. And I'm like, I can't talk business when I'm drinking. So I know for sure that thousands of hours of my life have been wasted on a hangover. And pursuit of it,
everything, money, time, pain,
health.
Headaches, health, you name it. I mean, you look at it like if you're, your body's a machine, what kind of gas are you putting in your body?
Don't get me started.
I mean, and I'm just gonna put this out there that I'm not an alcoholic and I don't drink that much, but sometimes when I get in the mode of drinking like a glass of wine after work, that becomes a habit.
Sure.
So I mean, I can't compare what I do to what you did at all. Sure. But I just want to say that because you guys were saying that you had alcohol problems at some point, I just want to put it out there that I don't. And that allows us a little bit more room to chat because I do continue drinking and I do not believe it's all evil, but I do think that if you don't have an off switch, sobriety's the only way to go, honestly.
No doubt. Yeah, I don't look down upon anybody that can still drink. I wish I could, honestly. Like, not like going out and doing that kind of stuff, but as far as like being able to, I miss being able to just crack a beer open and grill outside or something like that. That beer never really did a whole lot to me. It's just like I would just get bored drinking beer, so I'd start doing shots, and then I'd buy cocaine, and then I'd just it'd be off to the races for the night, and it's just like, man, I just got to stop doing this stuff to myself. But yeah, I mean, I there's parts of it I miss for sure, but
surely, you know what? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's really important that Jeremy tell us in what ways his life has changed since he made this important decision, because I don't want to run out of time to hear about this because I was just falling over at everything he was telling me. So if you could just kind of go through the timeline.
Sure.
Got sober when?
I got sober January 1st, 2017. So it's New Year's Day. It's kind of cliche day to get sober, but to have a New Year's revolution is what I called it at the time. I mean, I dug into everything. I went to 5 or 6 different churches just to see if that's the route I wanted to go. I went to treatment for a month. I did do that at 12 Oaks over here in Navarre, not too far away from where I was at. I just happened to call them. They took my insurance and they said I could go in there tonight. It wasn't like I did any research or anything. I was just like, I need to go to treatment. I'm going to go there. Bam. I checked in that night, which that was an interesting experience to say the least. But after I came out of treatment, I kind of dug into the AA world and I went to a bunch of meetings. They said, let's go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And I did that for sure. Maybe a little bit more. But that's where things started happening for me, honestly. Like I started getting down to causes and conditions and why I was drinking the way I was and why I was making decisions the way I was and all that kind of stuff. And kind of like one great thing about the 12-step program. And let me say, like, Alcoholics Anonymous is anonymous, obviously, and I'm breaking my anonymous anonymity. What is it called? Anonymity?
You got it.
Breaking my anonymity. Hate that word. Anyhow, I'm breaking it, and I'm allowed to break my own. I can absolutely do that. Okay. I can't talk about anybody else in the rooms. I can't talk about anybody else like that. But I can say that I am a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have been ever since. And it's just it taught me a way to live. They taught me a moral compass that I didn't have. It taught me to bring things up just to let them go, and not to let your past dictate your future. There's so many amazing things that like I didn't know how to do before. And I got to sit down with some guys that had done it too, that had been where I had been. And when I told them something, they're like, yeah, I mean, that's terrible, man. But I mean, it's happened to me. And it's like, okay, well, so you know exactly what I'm talking about and that kind of thing. But I mean, it was cool. Like almost immediately good things started happening. And I hate to sound cliche like this, but it's the truth. Like within 30 days after I had made a commitment to stop drinking I had like an amazing day. Like the weather was beautiful and all this kind of stuff. And there was just every time like a milestone would happen, my life was just getting exponentially better. Like, I mean, I still agree that like the whatever you put off into this universe is what you're gonna get back. If that's good, you're gonna get good back. If that's bad, you're gonna get bad back. Just kind of the way it works. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And the better human being, I always, people always say congratulations. Like, yeah, congratulations for saving your own life. That's all I did was like finally save my own life. You know what I'm saying? And go say like, okay, I'm done. I'm done doing it. I'm done with them hurting myself. I'm done upsetting my family. My mom was just waiting to get a phone call that I was dead. You know, I mean, she'd been praying for me for years, you know, because she just didn't know. You know, she didn't know what was going to happen. And it's just, I don't miss that stuff. You know, blacking out is.
Kelly said, it doesn't click until we want to do it for ourselves.
Ain't no doubt.
Says, my mom has been sober since 2008. So proud of her. And then Scott sells, Scooty Wells, 2011 Swede needed AA. All right, swells.
Yeah. I mean, 2011 Bull needed AA too. Ain't no doubt about it. Again, who knows what would have happened if I'd have got sober sooner? I wish I had, because I mean everything's clear now. I mean, that's what we were talking about. Like, you know, I've got over a 700 credit score now. I've got all these things I'm doing. I've got side businesses. I've got hustles that I'm working all over the place, and you know, I got a family on top of that. You know, that's one crazy part about it. You know, and call it coincidence or whatever we talked about it, but I never really tried it. I dated. I had some serious relationships or hostage situations in some cases, but throughout the situationships, whatever you want to call them, I got some relationships with my drinking buddies on a couple of occasions. Anyhow, never actively tried not to have a kid. I mean, didn't use condoms or anything like that, but just never had a problem. Never. I was like, okay, and I pretty well accepted that. My swimmers are drunk, or I was just infertile, or that is what it is. All right, okay, cool. Well, I'm 3 years sober. Actually, my girlfriend and I, we got together within about a year of me being sober. We got together, and about 3 years in, man. Hey, guess what? She's pregnant. So now I have a 3.5-year-old son. His name is Braxton Bullock, and he is the absolute love of my life.
Yeah.
He is.
Hey, I'm gonna pull up some pictures you sent me of your family.
Yeah, that's Brax right there. That's him with a cookie in his mouth. We went to the park. But yeah, that's him. He's 3.5 years old. He's already a little bit taller than my waist, so he's gonna be a big boy. That's him.
Well, you can see how big you are in that kind of picture there.
Yeah.
And there's Destin again. And then you sent this picture here. Who's this?
That one's Grayson. That's my 13-year-old stepson. He and I was his first basketball coach when he was, I think he was in like 4th grade. And now he's getting ready to start high school basketball. So he's kind of outgrown me as a coach. We still play in the yard, but he's getting too big. He's too tall. He's jumping too high. He's too fast. It's not fun playing him like it used to be. But yeah, that's Grayson. Yeah. And he's a really, really good kid. And I couldn't ask for a better big brother to raise that one right there, man. I mean, because you know how it is. Big brother is like, that's next to dad there. It's, that's pretty important. But that's Shannon and Braxton running around. We like going down to the beach. Shannon's not a huge fan of the sand. She kind of hates it, but she understands it's a necessary thing for us around here. Because you see, I mean, we can go down there and I can be there in about 10 minutes or so and walk the beach and to see that if I want to. So it's
you know what? Now that actually really does look like paradise,
It's pretty. There's not a prettier
Like
beach. I mean, I've been.
I'm not talking about the beach. I'm
beaches.
talking about your life. I'm talking about
my
your
life
now. Yeah. Because how did you meet Shannon? Shannon's her name, right?
Shannon. Yeah, actually, she called me because her ex-husband, which is Grayson's dad, was a very good friend of mine. We've known each other. We were actually born on the same day, same hospital, within hours of each other. We've been friends since we played Little League baseball together. Okay, that's her ex-husband and Grayson's dad. The one who was also on there, Grayson. That's his dad.
Okay.
She called me after they had divorced. She called me to get his name off of the title to the car. She wanted to be.
Oh, because you're a car guy.
I'm a car guy. Yeah. So she called me to see what she needed to do to get that off. And then that's kind of where everything the ball started rolling from there. Eventually I just sold her a car so that his name would come off of it. Hers would stay on it. So we just sold her a car and she was done. But we ended up hanging out and had a lot in common. And, we kept it a secret for a long time because of my relationship with her ex-husband and stuff. We kind of made sure it was what we wanted before we went public with it, but we did. And we got a little boy now and life is good. But, we still got our issues, and one thing we were talking about, I just quit vaping.
Nice.
On Valentine's Day. And I've had nicotine in my body since I was about 15 or 16. I either smoked or dipped snuff or whatever. That I quit smoking about the same time I got sober and started vaping, and that's been like my whole crutch the whole time. Has been like, I'm not drinking. I was vaping, and then it got to the point where I was lying about vaping.
Oh.
She found my vape when I told her I wasn't vaping, and it was a huge thing. She packed me a bag, said, "Get out! You lied to me. Get out of here." And I was like, here we go. Here we go.
But you know what? There's something really important that you left out that I don't know everything about, but we got to go down this path. So you said something about your girl's ex-husband. This is his son that you're raising, but this is your friend from how long ago? This guy?
Since birth?
Well, no, I mean, we weren't friends at birth, but we were born in the same hospital, same day, within hours of each other. We were friends in about 88. So about 8 years old. From the time we were about 8 years old, we played Little League baseball together and stuff like that. But yeah, that's when we met each other.
And he's one of the guys you're talking about when you say some didn't make it.
Yes, absolutely. He's always had, his issues and it finally succumbed to his issues been about 2 years now. I think June will be 2 years. And they found him dead, and it's like it's tough, and it's like what do you say to? He's always picked, it's what alcoholics do. It's what addicts do. We pick our alcohol or our booze over our family. The people that love us are the ones that we hurt the most. So
I guess the thing that you told me that I felt was really important is that you actually reached out to him when you decided to get sober.
Mm-hmm. He was the guy that I called because he'd been in and out of the program for so long. I knew that was the guy. Like, that was the guy I knew I needed to call, and he's the one that took me to my first AA meeting. He's the one that took me to that meeting at his.
That's incredible because then he made a mistake. He pieced out, but you're now raising his son.
Mm-hmm. And I've been sober 6.5 years since that day. I gave his mom my 5-year coin at the time. I was 5 years sober. I gave her my 5-year coin at his funeral because if it wasn't for him, I mean, who knows? If he didn't answer that phone, who knows? Never know. Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool situation, and I'm blessed to have Grayson because I got to learn so much about how to raise a little boy through this process that now I get to use for when Braxton gets to that age. You know what I mean?
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
That really is an incredible story.
Yeah.
I'm over here somewhat speechless, man. I've got some high caliber guys in my circle of friends. One of my best friends from high school adopted his nephew, who was born into a situation where parenting wasn't there. And I got none but love for what you're doing. I'm sure you love him like he's yours. I mean, wow, the way that you're when we were talking prior to the show about your story, the way that your voice changed and your demeanor changed when you started talking about the family that you have and your son and your the way that it was so, you were saying it straight from the heart about, you believe so firmly that no longer drinking has been, like, the storm is now past, because, and not that life becomes some simple and easy after that, but like, you really feel like that was the dark cloud in your life. And I could tell by the way you started talking about your son and your family, that you truly believe that, and look, we've gone through an hour, and I've been just glued to your voice, listening to you talk about it all. And typically when we execute an hour on the show, we talk about, the things that we're doing with the show and the direction we want to go. And we try to do mindset training and helping others, go through the experiences that we've had and try to, pass our wisdom along, and then leave it open for others to bring theirs, and so that we can also learn. And man, this show has been one of my favorites. I've been really just in awe of how joyful you sound now that you feel like you've gone through this crisis, and you've the car got knocked off course, and then you grab the wheel by the horns, or grab the wheel of the car, the bull by the horns, and you got to hold yourself. Think about it, and
for sure,
man. I couldn't be happier about you coming on the show, and to our listeners and our viewers now and in the future. We hope that you are feeling us when we're talking about, the ingredients of Gittin Bizzy Livin. That we're not just out there like bragging about people that get rich and travel. We're talking about all of the steps along the way that people go through in order to be able to prepare themselves and be mentally ready, to be able to get busy living, which is, in the simpler terms, living a purposeful, deliberate, intentional life, which it sounds like that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
What an amazing ride. And before we go, I just want to tell people that you work for, I lost the graphic. Why don't you tell us who you work for and what your plans are for the future real quick before
I'm a master certified sales consultant at Gary Smith Ford in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. So I sell Fords, and I do used cars and stuff like that too, but primarily new Fords. I'm also got my long time ago, my dad had a company called Bullock Ventures, and it was his company that he started right after he retired from the car business, and he tried to dabble with doing some things, ended up closing it, whatever, and then he passed away. So when I needed a name for my business, I rent Broncos on the side. These new 2022 and 2023 Ford Broncos, the
yes.
I rent them on the Turo platform to these tourists that are flying in. They're going to the beach, and all that stuff. In fact, I just got done cleaning one up because this lady totally, I don't think she left any sand at the beach. She left most of it in the floorboard of my vehicle. So I had to clean that up before it turns around and goes back out tomorrow. So I'm kind of starting this side business that I can kind of work with my job, because if anything needs to be done, I just take it to work with me, and it gets done while I'm at work, and I can kind of maneuver things that way. So it's pretty cool. I've got 3 vehicles now. Bullock Ventures is the name of the company. But I mean, it's
so cool.
It's worked good so far. I bought 3 of them. I want to, if I can get 30 of them, and then I can just do that for a living and do podcasts. I'm telling you, buddy, this is my first time I've ever been on a podcast, and I've absolutely had a great time. I do appreciate you guys. It's definitely been a cool thing.
You could have your own podcast. You absolutely are just thrilling to listen to. Thank you so much for coming on today. Come back anytime and chat with us about how your life is going. And
for sure. If you want to get a hold of Jeremy Bullock, we got his QR code here on the screen, and you can hit him up on Instagram. If you know somebody that's going to be looking for a ride coming into town,
hey, Anybody, my inbox is open. If there's something anybody wants to talk about as far as quitting drinking, I mean, I can give you the advice that I was given and point you in the right direction. I mean, the way that things are now, no matter where you're at, I can find a meeting for you to go to too, if you want to go check that out and see if it's something that's interesting to you. So I have absolutely no problem. Sobriety is one of those things you gotta give it away to keep it. You know what I mean? So anybody that does have an issue, I'm happy to talk with you about it. Nothing personal or anything like that. I'll kind of point you in the right direction and let you go. But, if it's, anybody needs help, I'm happy to chat with them. Or if they want to send somebody that they know or whatever, I'm cool with that too.
That's awesome.
How's that for community development, D-Rex?
Absolutely.
It's important. I mean, some of the relationships that I've built since I got into sobriety have been so important in my life for all the reasons in the world. I mean, I call these guys for things that are not sobriety related, just life related. Like, hey, what do I do right here? And instead of it just going through this brain, it gets battled around through some other people first, which is usually a pretty good idea because between here and here, crazy things get thought. But, hey, man, thank you, Kiro Dimitrievsky. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. And that's awesome, man. And like I said, I so appreciate you guys having me on here and giving me a chance to tell my story because I think it's important that people understand that, as cool as it might be. I mean, I was one of the coolest. I had a lot of fun, but you got it's kind of like skydiving. You got to pull that ripcord at some point. You know what I mean? You gotta chill and float and let it happen. But I appreciate y'all so very, very much for giving me this platform to say what I needed to say today and let everybody hear that.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Appreciate y'all.
Couldn't be happier about you having you, man. Look, we talk all the time about this is just the beginning, so if you don't start your own podcasting career, maybe we'll have a knowledge kicking session with you on a regular here, man. We'd love to have you back.
I'm down, man. I'm down. Absolutely.
Really trying to build a community here, man. It's all about, everybody putting their hand in the pile and offering whatever resources they have access to try to help everybody, lift everybody up. Lord knows with things all crumbling around us, that we could all use each other. You know what I mean? And and that just goes to how we end every show, because now that you're part of this show with us, Bull, you're always going to be a part of it as long as you're willing, man. So, and what we just ask that you do is that you always remember we're all in this together. Always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell
yeah.
Hell yeah.
But you gotta believe me.